June 6, 1944, the Allied nations land on the beaches of Normandy. These brave men went into the fight not knowing what would happen to them, many of them barely old enough to join up, assaulting an enemy position that had every possible advantage, with a massive array of defenses. But they attacked Fortress Europe, and at low tide, meaning that they were over a quarter of a mile further back than what they would have been if they would have assaulted at high tide. But to protect the Navy craft, they needed to go that far back. And these men had to run. They had to run from all the way out there into an onslaught of fire and fury. Soaking wet and cold, they did that for our freedom and for the freedom of the entire world. Many people know about the landings and can even name all 5 beaches. And this obviously being Utah, Omaha, Sword, Gold, and Juneau beaches. Many people don't know the nearly forgotten history of D-Day. These parts of D-Day, the logistics and much more, have almost been lost to the sands of time for anyone except for really dorky people who buy books like World War II in Numbers, which gives all the logistics about the war. Great book. First off, the term D-Day is commonly associated with Operation Overlord and Operation Neptune, these being the landings on Normandy Beach and the early days of fighting into France. But D-Day as a term has actually been used since World War I, the first known case of it being used at the attack of Saint Michel by the Americans. Similarly, with military lingo, there's also H-hour, which simply means the hour in which an attack is going to go off. So D-Day is simply the day that an attack is going to occur. There are also many other days, such as A-Day, which was the assault day on Leyte Gulf in the Philippines. Now, these landings occurred in a stretch of over 50 miles of shoreline, obviously the beaches themselves being much smaller. That's about 80 kilometers for everybody else. Now, the lengths of the beaches vary. Utah Beach being the smallest, it was only about 1.25 miles in length. The longest was Omaha Beach at 4.5 miles. I've yet to find a verifiable distance traveled from the troops leaving the troop carriers at low tide to the pillboxes that they assaulted. If anyone can find good data for that, please drop it in the comments. I really want to know what the length is. My best guess is about 1 mile of a lot of the research I've done, but I'd like to know the exact distance. And obviously each beach would be different. I have a fun idea for every D-Day in which I sprint those distances similar to those men, maybe dressed in World War II reenactment gear, I don't know, with a big pack on my back, just sprinting down a beach for however long those distances are. And that'd be a fun tradition to start, but I need to figure out how long these distances officially are. Also, it would just be really cool to just think to myself, okay, I'm gonna do an Omaha and I run 9/10 of a mile. Or I'm doing a Gold Beach and it's 1/2 mile, but I don't know these numbers for sure. Anyways, back on topic. A lot of my best information about the actual depth of the beach, the width of the beach, comes from the Mulberry Harbors, which were 2 different harbors that were just temporary, built onto the beaches because the Allies needed to ferry as much supplies and personnel onto that beach as possible to be able to really start assaulting further into France, as well as go over to Cherbourg to capture it. These harbors were designed to only last for 3 months because they assumed by that point they'd get better ports and be able to have them all set up, fix whatever equipment the Germans broke while retreating. However, they ended up being used for over 8 months. Also, the Ghost Army built a fake Mulberry Harbor that was further down to make the German bombers try and attack that and shell that instead with their artillery. The Ghost Army, of course, being the people who created a bunch of inflatable tanks and other fake equipment and spread false information to the Germans about where they were actually going to be attacking to make a lot of the troops that were down in that region move further up the coast. And it was basically a big giant decoy plot that worked really well. Also, side note, I would love an inflatable tank. Whether it was an actual inflatable tank from World War II or just one that someone makes or I make and then I put it in my yard for Christmas. Back to the beaches. Omaha Beach is commonly known as the hardest fought victory for the Allies. And this is definitely the case, it being the largest beach and having the most fortifications thereon. Many of the beaches, after you get past the initial landing, they just have dunes or a small seawall. However, Omaha, they had large cliffs that they had to scale. Coupled with that, Omaha Beach had 85 machine gun nests, which is more than every other beach combined that had 82 total. In addition, they had 28 mortars at Omaha Beach, which is nearly double that of all the other beaches. It was nearly double for artillery, for anti-tank guns, for infantry. It was nearly double that of every other beach combined at Omaha, partially because it was a very large beach. And at Omaha Beach, there was 2,374 casualties, which is more than all the other casualties, all the other 4 beaches combined, which were 2,045 casualties. Now, all of these beaches were obviously extremely hard to assault. Let's beat the Bosch and subscribe for more. Now, the strongholds or pillboxes that were on Omaha Beach, there were 10 of them, nearly 2.5 per mile, compared to 3 on Utah, 2 on Sword, and 4 on Juneau and Gold. In total, nearly 180,000 Allied troops went into battle on D-Day, as well as 7,000 ships and more than 27,000 airplanes. The logistical size of this battle and World War II in general is mind-boggling, migraine-inducing. Because right after this battle is fought, they laid down a whole bunch of pipe underneath the ocean to have oil be piped directly from England over to France to be put into tanks. Hundreds of millions of tons of supplies and millions of men had to be quickly ferried over into Normandy to be able to start assaulting the hedgerows, which ended up being a battle for quite some time in Normandy. Now, with this constant pressure and fighting in the hedgerows, there was always the possibility that this would turn into a new Dunkirk. So they were really trying to put as many men out into the field as they possibly could and be able to continue just pushing back, hammering those Germans. My grandfather landed on Utah Beach on D-Day +6, so 6 days after the initial invasion of Normandy. When he arrived, there were still bodies washing ashore, as well as blood in the water. While troops were landing on the beaches, 2 American airborne divisions and 1 British were assaulting enemy supply lines and taking key infrastructure points behind enemy lines to sow confusion and prevent a coordinated enemy assault on the beaches. Leading up to the invasion of Normandy, French resistance and bomber crews had destroyed 18 of the 24 bridges on the River Seine between Paris and Normandy, preventing Germans from being able to properly move many of their troops and supplies out to the location. As well as 1,500 trains, that's 3/4 of trains in northern France, the Allies destroyed prior to the invasion to prevent the Germans from being able to move troops over to northern France. All of this culminated into victory in the Battle of Normandy, as well as victory in Europe. Thank you so much for watching.
Don't let them Nazis win. Subscribe. Come on, man. Do you want to live forever? Smash that subscribe button.